welcome to So Bliss. Today I'm going to show you how to applique. Now you might be wondering, what is applique? Applique is when you are putting small pieces of fabric on top of a larger piece of fabric to create a picture or a design or something like that. So I'm going to be doing mine on top of a quilt. You could do it on any other project like a shirt or a bag, something like that. So if you see these little X's and O's and the arrows, I actually put those on this piece of fabric. They did not come that way. So that is what I'm going to be showing you guys how to do today. I've partnered with Silhouette to show you how to use the Cameo 3. I'm going to be showing you 3 different projects. Today is applique, and then I'll be posting 2 more videos that will show you what you can do with the Cameo 3. This project was so much easier with the Cameo. I didn't have to cut out any little pieces. I just typed it into my computer and the Cameo cut it for me. I love how it can cut fabric, vinyl, cardstock, and a bunch of other different things. So you'll have to check out my links down below of where you can purchase one and the other cool things that it can do. So the supplies that you're going to need are, first, obviously your Cameo. I am going to be using this Cameo 3 that I have. If you have an older version, that's just fine. I'm going to show you how to easily use the software. If you're a beginner, this is the perfect project for you. So you're going to need the Cameo, you're going to need a project that you want to put applique on. You're also going to need some Heat and Bond Light. This is the sewable version. It comes in the purple packaging, so that will help to adhere the fabric. And then you're just going to need all of your basic sewing supplies. So let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to iron the Heat and Bond onto my fabric. So here's my fabric. I've cut it into a 12 by 12 square because that's the size of mat I'm going to be using on the Silhouette. So I have that on my ironing board with the wrong side facing up. If you have a wrong side or a right side, mine really doesn't, so it doesn't matter. But I'm going to be ironing the paper or the Heat and Bond to the wrong side of the fabric. So then I'm going to lay this down, and I've cut it just barely smaller so that it covers most of it. And lay that down and grab my iron, and I'm going to be holding it on there for about 2 seconds and then move on to another area, holding for a couple seconds and moving to the next area, just making sure it gets ironed down and that adhesive really attaches to the fabric. I am ironing right on top of the paper, just making sure that it attaches nicely to the fabric. So make sure the paper is facing up, and then the rough side that you can feel is attaching to the fabric, because that's the adhesive that we're attaching with the iron. After I have the Heat and Bond iron onto the fabric, I then let it cool, and once it's cooled, I can take that paper off, and you'll see it kind of is a little shiny, and you can feel kind of like a little sticky or plasticky like texture on it. That should be sticking to your fabric. And I found that when I cut it with my Silhouette, it cuts better when the paper is off. I have heard some people leave the paper on, but I want to protect the blade I'm using because it's my fabric blade and I don't want it to cut paper. So, and I found that it just cuts better without the paper on there. So now I'm ready to take it over to the Silhouette and prepare that. Now, when you first open the Silhouette Studio software, this is the screen that you're going to be brought to. Now, obviously, you're not going to have the X's and O's already on there, but you're going to have a board like this, and it's supposed to mimic the cutting board that you will put into the machine. It shows the arrow, so that's where it's going to enter the machine. And then you can also see you have like the design space, the store where you can buy different files, the library, that's where your files are stored, and then send is where you will send it to the machine. You have lots of editing tools. I'm not going to go over those today, but over on this left side, you can see the letter A, and that is going to make it so you can write text. So if you click on that, then you can click on your screen and write out what you want. So like the X's and the O's are what I'm going to be needing for this project. So I can do that and then highlight it, and then if I go to the top, I can change my font, I can change the size, just like in any other type of software. You can change the lettering you need. So for mine, up here, I can double click on that and highlight it and show you what I did for that one. I bolded it. I did it to 130 for the size of the font, and I left the font the same because I did like how sharp the X's were and I liked the O's, so I left those the same. So let me delete this. And then for this, I really just played around with it. I got a 12 by 12 square and put the X's and O's all over this a few different times and had it cut out a few different times so that I could test it out. That is going to be the best thing to do, is just test, play around with your machine and see what works best for you. See what you like, see what font you like, what size. I tried a couple different sizes. I went with bold and not bold. So really just play around with it and you'll get better and better at this software and better get to know your machine. Once you have your design all ready to go, here are my X's and O's already. I like their size, I like the style of the font. I'm then gonna go up here to my send, hit send, and it's gonna have the layout of what it's gonna look like to cut. These are all your settings for cutting. You wanna make sure to change the material to a thin cotton print. Unless you're using a thicker cotton, they do have an option for a canvas. It's called fabric thick canvas, but I'm gonna be using a thin cotton, so I have it on that. And then I also have just on cut, auto blade, because they don't have a fabric blade. But the fabric blade and the regular blade are pretty much the same. I just have them, the blue one is my fabric blade so that it's distinguished as the fabric blade, and then the white one is the paper blade. So make sure you do that because you don't want your blades to dull out quickly. And then I also changed some of the settings down here. I played around with it and found that these settings are what has worked best for my fabric and for the heat and bond. So I have the blade set to a 5, speed 1, force is a 13 with 1 pass. And if you want, you can hit the test and it'll cut out a little square with the triangle in the middle of it. But if you've already done that and you know this is going to work well, you can then hit send. Now to place your fabric on your mat, you're gonna wanna make sure the arrow is pointing up and that edge is where the top is going to be. So like the top of your screen, that's where it's gonna be, right on the arrow. So if I put something in this corner on my screen, it's gonna cut in this corner. So just be aware of that. That's how you're gonna load it into your machine. So I just have placed my fabric on top and it's sticky on the mat. So the fabric has just stuck to it. And I did place it with the heat and bond down. That seems to have worked better for me. I was trying it up and a few times it worked good when it was up, but it seemed to work better when it was down. So just keep that in mind. You could test that out for yourself if you want to as well. So then I'm going to load mine onto my machine. So here I have it lined up. Here's an arrow on this side and then here's the arrow on this side. And I'm gonna hit load on my screen and it just pulls it in a little bit, ready to go. Then I can go back to my computer and make sure my settings are correct. Once it's loaded and ready to go, I'm then gonna hit send on my computer and the machine is gonna do its thing. Once it's finished cutting, then your screen will say job complete up at the top and you can hit unload and it will be able to come out. And I will take my little tweezers and I can then take my pieces and peel them off. They're a little still stuck. So there's one of my X's and I can go through and just peel them all off. Now that I have all of my X's and O's cut out and done, now I'm doing the lines that show like where the guys are going to be running. So I created these lines just using the rectangle tool over here, which can create all these shapes, and then this line tool that can create different kinds of lines. So I just created points. So I took the line tool right here and then I drew points to where I wanted it. And then I went around And then like that would be really thick. So I would then click on it and I would alter those points. You can like go in and change it. And I made sure the widths were all similar. So it's not too complicated. It might be a little tedious depending on how many lines you're doing or what you're doing, but it's not too bad. And then for these straight lines, I just did rectangles and made them super skinny. And then actually those ones will be connected just like that. And then I made some triangles using the line tool again, and I just hit 3 points. Oh, let me grab it. So I did 1, 2, 3, and then connected to the top one, and then I duplicated it by, hold on, I gotta get my arrow, do right click and then hit duplicate, and I duplicated it 4 times so that at the end of my lines I will have all of my arrows. So now I'm going to send that over to my silhouette. Once you have all your pieces cut out, you can then lay it on whatever your project is. Here I have my quilt top. I have it laying on my ironing board so that it's ready to iron once I have it all placed where I want it to go. So I'm just going to make sure all these little pieces are exactly where I want them. I'll probably iron down my lines first, and then I'm going to put the arrow right on top of it like that, just like that. So just make sure it's where you want it, and make sure that the adhesive part, the heat and bond, is on the bottom. So if you can kind of see it, it's really shiny. So there's my shiny side. I have to make sure that's touching the fabric, because then once all my pieces are ready to go and I like where they're placed, I'm then going to take my iron and hold it on my pieces for about 6 seconds. If you have thicker fabric, it is a little longer. So just test your fabric and see how it does. Pieces are ironed down, then I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and I'm going to stitch around the edges of all of them. So that is going to make sure that it holds the piece in place, and it's just going to make sure it stays there and looks really nice. Now, if you're quilting the whole top of a quilt, you don't necessarily have to do this. But because my pieces are so small, I am going to do it, because that will make sure that all the pieces, all these little edges will stay in place, because there will be quilting going over the top of it, but I want to make sure this stays on really nicely since they're the small pieces. Now to stitch these pieces down, I'm going to be using my walking foot. I think it's just going to be easier for me to do it. Now if you don't have one, don't worry about it. You don't have to have a walking foot. I'm just going to try it out and see how it goes. And if it goes well, I'll keep using it, and if not, I'm going to change to my regular foot. But you can also use a regular foot. Here's my first piece that's completely finished. It's not perfect. You can tell I kind of cut the corner around here, but that's okay because it's just this tiny little piece, and I just want to make sure it's going to stay on there forever. So now I'm going to go around, and it is going to be tedious for mine because I have all these little pieces, but I'm okay with that because I want this quilt to last a long time. And that's a good thing about appliquing. When you stitch around it, it's going to make sure to stay on there and not fall off. Whereas if I didn't stitch it down, it might fall off. Then once you are done stitching all around your pieces, you are then done with the applique portion of your project. So for mine, I need to get mine quilted, which I'm really excited to get done because it's going to be footballs all over it. It's going to be so cute. If you want to see the finished project, I'll put a link down below to my Instagram, and I'll make sure to post lots of pictures on there. So make sure to check out my Instagram, MySewBliss. And then I obviously need to bind it, so I'm excited to do that because I'm going to do some black and white to represent the refs all around the edge. It's gonna be black and white stripes, so super cute. Now, make sure you guys go check out Silhouette. I'll put a link down below to their website. They have a ton of great project ideas, and they have a ton of great tools to help you do your craft projects. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out my other videos that I'm doing with Silhouette, and leave any questions or comments down below. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!